Hey, it's Mike here, and by now you've probably heard about the GameStop stock frenzy that's been hitting the internet over the last few days. Now, this is a stock that at the beginning of January was sitting at $19.38, and over this past month has skyrocketed way up to a high of $347 closing on January 27th, and today at pre-market, as of recording this, it's set to hit $380 today. Who knows how high it's going to go, how low it's going to go. But man, I think a lot of people right now are wondering, should I get into it? Should I stay away from it? Or should I just sit back with my box of popcorn and just kind of watch and see what happens? Me personally, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to watch it. I'm a little bit scared of what's going on here, but I'm still interested in hearing about why it's happening, what's causing it, and how we can learn from this and how it can affect our own investments. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be watching a video by one of my go-to guys. We're going to be looking at Stephan. He's one of the top stock market professionals on YouTube, and he puts out some really great content. So we're going to be watching one of his videos and reacting to it. So let's take a look at his video here. You can see it's a pretty crazy thumbnail here. It says game over. So let's see what's happening with this. Let's watch the video together. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch this. We'll go and give it a like and hit that play button. Let's go.
What's up, you Graham? It's Guys here, and today we got to talk about one of the most requested, most mind-boggling topics of investing insanity that I have ever seen that's happening right now and causing some people to make millions of dollars in the process, and that would be GameStop.
It's crazy that everyone's making so much money from this. Like, there are really people making millions, if not billions of dollars off of this right now. And I don't know about you, but it makes me think, like, should I go and should I buy some shares of this just in case it goes up? And that's just, I don't know, it sounds like too close to gambling for me.
That's right. The same company who would give you pennies of store credit for your brand new trade-ins has now become the hottest moneymaker of 2021, all thanks to a fundamental shortcoming that was discovered by a user of Reddit's WallStreet Bets not too long ago. And now they say the current market conditions have set the stock up on a trajectory to continue plowing higher and higher, almost becoming like an infinite money glitch.
It's almost looks it seems to me kind of like Bitcoin, where I see Bitcoin keep going up. It's gone up to $40,000. Now it's down to around $31,000. And it just keeps going up. And I'm just wonder if there's any basis behind it. And like, should I be getting into it or should I not be getting into it? Let me know in the comments below if you've purchased any GME or any GameStop or any Bitcoin.
Sellers have to buy in to cover their losses, which causes stock price to rise higher, which causes more people to buy in to cover their losses, and this just continues until when? The moon? So in a remarkable, maybe once-in-a-lifetime event that's showing up on the front page of every major news outlet in existence, let's cover exactly what's going on, how some people are making so much money, how this is even allowed to happen to begin with, and what this means for you, whether you're just curious how this works, or if you've been seeing this mentioned everywhere and you want to know if it's too late to invest your money and print tendies.
I'm going to say, I don't know if it's too late, but my thought on this really is it's way too dangerous to invest in this right now. Like, this could just go way down, drop down in just a second, and you could lose a ton of money with this. I don't know. It's too risky for me.
Before I go into all of the tantalizing money printing details, I need you to do a quick favor for me and diamond hand that like button for the YouTube algorithm. That's right. Every like on this video directly supports the families of short sellers who had to buy in to cover their positions, even though they had to lose money. Just kidding. It doesn't do that at all, but it's totally free. It helps me out, and thank you so much.
If there's one thing that Graham does really well is he gets people to hit that like button. That's been one of the most important parts of his YouTube channel. It's the thing he focuses on in every single video that he does. He asks people to hit that like button. So apparently I was supposed to ask you to hit the like button as well. So if you can go ahead and click the like button on this video, I would really appreciate it.
Oh, and also, full disclosure here, but don't do anything I'm talking about in this video. It's incredibly risky. I am just a guy on YouTube making videos from a spare bedroom. You should not listen to me. And you should always do your own research because this is all for entertainment purposes only, and none of this should be investing advice. So
Same thing for me. I'm not telling you to invest or not to invest. Those are decisions that you have to make on your own. So this is not investment advice. There's your disclosure and your disclaimer there.
Now that I've cleared up that confusion on what not to do, let's begin the video here. All right, so first, GameStop. I pretty much guarantee we all remember at some point walking through a mall or an outdated outlet center and passing by a store with the unmistakable big, bold, white and red words, GameStop. Like the name would suggest, this is a retail gaming shop that sold video games, consoles, controllers, and collectibles. They would take trade-ins while driving a harder bargain than Rick from Pawn Stars. And more recently, they began offering subscription services where you could rent games for a fixed price per.
I didn't even know that GameStop still existed. Like with the fact that people can just download like PlayStation games and Xbox games online, I didn't even know that they needed to have a service like this anymore.
But as the overall video game markets began outgrowing the store and more people resorted to online downloads versus shopping in person at an outdated mall with nothing left than a Nordstrom's, GameStop was beginning to be left behind, much like the greats of Toys R Us and Blockbuster. But one investor, despite all of this, decided to step up to the plate on Reddit's WallStreet Bets to begin turning things around. Now, some people say this person is a genius and other people think he's crazy, but I personally think he's a crazy genius who also happened to be very lucky. And this is where the story starts getting really good. Unfortunately, I can't say the full username here without getting demonetized on YouTube, but DFV is all referred to him, invested 50.
Obviously, he says the word that we're not allowed to say here. You have to be really careful about what you say on YouTube. Like if there's now, every time I upload a video, there's a whole list of things that you have to go through, and you have to say that like your video isn't about violence or anything that YouTube doesn't want to have on it, because they have to be careful with their advertisers, because some advertisers don't want their ads to show up on certain content, which makes sense for them. So yeah, I have to be careful about some of the words that I say on this channel.
$1,000 into GameStop call options in September of 2019 as the company's stock price plummeted to its lowest level in history. However, he felt the company was fundamentally undervalued. Not even a few months later, the famed investor Michael Burry announced his optimistic position in the company for one simple reason: discs. See, even though it's
that Michael Burry guy, he's the guy from the Big Short movie that you guys probably have, hopefully you've seen. If you haven't seen it, definitely go and check that out. It's an excellent movie. Really smart guy. He predicted the 2008 mortgage crisis, and made a lot of money off of it.
To look at a company like this and think, oh, they're just going to be going out of business in a year now. It's just a matter of time. Michael Burry felt like this negative sentiment wasn't deserved because both Microsoft and Sony were releasing their next generation game consoles, which would have discs for people who wanted to buy a physical copy. Michael Burry believed that this would extend the price of GameStop and their stock price, which at the time was trading between $3 and $4 a share. Well, that was all back in late 2019, and our Reddit user DFV has been holding ever since, despite constant replies telling him he's an idiot and should get out ASAP. In fact, he just kept buying more, even through the shutdowns, the GameStop controversies, refusing to close stores, and horrible earnings. He just had diamond hands and kept doubling down. At that point, he posted a screenshot on Reddit of his investment where he was down $34,000.
That takes a lot of guts here. Down $34,000. His investments are way down, but he keeps on holding them. It's easy to say that, like when it comes to investing, if you've invested in the stock market, it's easy to say, oh, I'll hold on tight when the market's falling and not sell. But when it's actually happening, emotions can get involved, and it can be really hard not to hit that sell button.
Oh, this is where things get interesting, as though it wasn't already interesting, but this is where it starts to piece together. In June of 2020, GameStop announced that they saw a 519% jump in online sales when they were forced to shut down their physical locations. In August of 2020, the billionaire co-founder of Chewy.com announced that he bought a 9% stake in the company and plans to turn it into an Amazon rival through his active involvement and remanagement of the company. After that, they announced a multi-year strategic partnership with Microsoft, which plans to expand both their physical store and their digital store. Sure enough, digital sales increased, and the Chewy.com co-founder increased his stake in GameStop to now 13%. And that's when, about 4 months ago, users of Reddit's WallStreet Bets discovered a very little secret about the stock that would cause it to skyrocket exponentially just given the right conditions.
Before we learn about the secret here, I didn't even know that there were real reasons that the stock was increasing in value. Like there's real reasons behind it. People are actually investing in it. It's not just based upon a craze, apparently. But what's this? What's this real reason?
Sure enough, he was right, and everything he said would happen has now come true. He explained that GameStop was one of the most shorted stocks in the stock market, with almost 90% of the stockholders believing the stock price will go down. In fact, it was so shorted that more shares were shorted than actually exist in the market for sale. So that's turning out to be the perfect storm to cause this stock to skyrocket exponentially as soon as any good news comes out.
So essentially, when the people are shorting this stock, they're saying that they're betting that this stock is going to go down. They're betting that it's going to lose, which if I was one of these big guys and I was looking at this stock, I mean, it looks like it's going to lose. It's would just, I mean, it's, if you were going to look at Blockbuster or GameStop with older businesses that aren't really relevant anymore, I mean, you would just think that they would be going down.
This is what's known as a short squeeze, and here's how that works. When you think the price of a stock is going to be going down, you could choose to short that stock. And because it's kind of complicated to explain, I've made this really fancy Photoshop so I could explain exactly what's going on. When you short a stock, you first borrow that stock from somebody else at a preset price with the intention of eventually returning that stock to the person at some point in the future. Next, once you borrow those stocks, you could resell them immediately to somebody else and you get to hold on to that money. But since you owe that first person their stocks back, that money you get isn't all profit. If the price of the stock you borrowed and sold goes down, which is what you wanted, you could buy them back at a cheaper price, return the stocks back to the first person who you borrowed them from, and then the difference you have left over is your profit. However, the danger is that if the stock price goes up, you will be forced to buy back the stocks at a higher price, and when that happens, you'll lose money when eventually you have to return those stocks.
That's a pretty good explanation of that. Like it's these things can be so hard to understand sometimes, especially with the stock market. And sometimes I think that they make them difficult to understand on purpose so that normal people won't understand what's going on and won't be able to kind of understand that we're getting ripped off.
When you go and buy a stock like normal, the downside is really going to be limited to the amount you buy in. So for example, if you buy a $10 stock, the most you could lose is that original $10. But if you short a $10 stock and it goes to $100, then all of a sudden you're losing $90 for every $10 you're investing in. And by shorting a stock, your losses could theoretically just be infinite. And that is where GameStop comes in.
And that's scary. And this is going to be bad for these big companies that are shorting this stock. Let's see how bad.
Reddit user who posted here theorized that because so many people were short on GameStop, thinking that the price of the stock was going to be going down, eventually all this good news is going to cause these short sellers to exit their positions, forcing them to buy back those shares at a higher price. And when that happens, the price of the stock goes up. And when that happens, more people close out their positions by buying back shares at a higher price. And that continues until the price of GameStop goes to the moon and Reddit users buy Lamborghinis. But this is not any old short selling activity. Oh no, this is the perfect storm of short selling. Remember how I told you that almost 90% of all GameStop stocks are shorted? And there are more shares shorted than actually exist on the market? Well, yeah, you're going to want to hear this. When the price of a stock goes up and short sellers want to get out, they actually have to go and buy that underlying stock so they could give it back to the person they borrowed it from. But what happens when more shares are shorted than actually exist on the market for sale?
Wow. I mean, it's complicated and Graham's doing a great job explaining it, but it's still like it's the perfect storm here. Like this is incredible.
Have to offer more money to buy someone else's stock. And if no one wants to sell their stock, then the price just keeps rising exponentially until eventually someone raises their hand and says,
okay, fine. You know what? I don't really want to sell my stock, but I will if you give me $1,000.
Well, at some point,
Graham always does those. If you watch him, he always does these black and white things where he does this kind of nasally voice where he makes fun of stuff. He does a really good job with his editing. Graham's editing on his videos isn't super crazy, but it's just done enough to make it so that it's all I think it's hot. All I think is really needed with it. He doesn't get too crazy with it, but he makes it clean, he makes it concise, and he gets people really like to be attentive.
they're just going to need to pay that price. And that's kind of what's going on here. See, Reddit's Wall Street Bets saw the writing on the wall, and they all collectively said,
if we all buy call options on GameStop, which is an option to purchase 100 contracts at a specific price at a specific point in the future, that's going to cause the brokerage to actually go and buy those 100 underlying shares of the company, further driving up the price. And that's going to cause all the short sellers to have to sell. But since we're buying all of these stocks and we're not selling them, the short sellers are going to have to offer us way more money if they want to exit their positions. And that in turn is going to make us all very rich.
And guess what?
And look at that. Just that little editing there. Nothing too fancy. Just adding a little video clip from a movie there in the background. But it does a good job in keeping your attention.
Since there's been more news about GameStop going up in value, that's caused more retail investors to pile into the stock, driving up the price and making it very difficult for short sellers to find people who actually want to sell their stock. Because those buyers know that the longer they hold out for, the more money short sellers will have to pay and the more money they will make. And then, of course, you throw in Elon Musk tweeting about it.
Now, this is the crazy one. Elon Musk tweets anything about anything and they just go crazy. He's even tweeted that his own stock, Tesla, was overvalued. He like, just, if he tweets, you pay attention to it because something's going to happen.
And yeah, here's where we are now. Literally right now, as you're watching this video, there's a tug of war going on between institutional investors who are shorting the stock and Reddit's Wall Street Bets. Reddit's Wall Street Bets has single-handedly banded together to buy up as many GameStop call options as possible, further driving up the price and causing short sellers to lose a lot of money, and it worked. Large institutional investors have lost tens of millions of dollars, and the little guy who decided to take a chance on GameStop is now raking in money. Or really, in more simple terms, just think of it like this. Imagine that Thanksgiving is coming up next week in a really wealthy town where turkeys normally sell for $30 each, and one family in particular promised to host the biggest Thanksgiving feast of all time, no matter what. Well, you know this in advance, so you coordinate to buy up all the turkeys so that there are no more left by the time the family wants to buy one. When this family starts to panic about no more turkeys being left, you come out of the internet and say, well, I have plenty of turkeys for sale, but it's going to cost you $1,000. Otherwise, you're not going to have your dinner. Sure enough, the family would pay the $1,000, even though the turkey is not worth it, just because they promised that they would host the biggest Thanksgiving feast of all time, and they have to buy it. That's what happened.
I wonder how Graham gets these little graphics done. Graham, if you're watching this, let me know. I'm really interested to see if you do those yourself or if you outsource those.
But instead of a wealthy family, we have institutional investors. And instead of a turkey, we have GameStop. Oh, and remember the Reddit user who invested $50,000 into GameStop in 2019? Recording this after hours, but it's now worth over $22 million. Even after closing out some of his earlier positions and taking some profit. Now, as far as where this goes from here, it's really anybody's guess. People have been posting heavily researched articles with price targets anywhere from $100 to $1,000 a share or higher. And I guess theoretically, anything is possible. If enough people refuse to sell in the right conditions, it could go to $1,000.
Do you think it's going to go up to $1,000? Like, that would just be insane. Like, I'm really curious to how high this stock is going to go. This is going to be fun to watch. I'm not investing in it, but it's going to be fun to watch.
Or then crashing back down. But this is 100% a game of musical chairs, and most likely 90% of investors are going to lose money on this big time. At this point, it has nothing to do with the fundamentals of the company at all, but it does have to do with a very unique situation of a limited quantity of shares available, combined with an insane amount of short interest, combined with Wall Street Bets coordinating to purchase call options, driving up the price of the stock, which causes more people to pile in. And it's a perfect storm when those people refuse to sell what they just bought. The difficult part of this just becomes, how soon do you get out and when does this reach the top? Is that going to be $250, $500, $1,000, or $1,200 or even higher? Nobody knows. And realistically, if we knew, for example, the peak was going to be, let's say, $1,000, you would have someone else selling at $990, which means someone else would sell at $980, which means someone would sell at $970. And then one person would just undercut the other, who undercuts the other before there's nothing left.
The problem is we just don't know where it's going to go to. Like, you can be optimistic about it and think, oh, it's going to go up to 1,000, and when it hits 1,000, I'm going to sell. But I mean, it could go today, it could go up to 400 and then just drop way back down to $3. It could drop below that. And if you've gone in and you've invested, let's say you've got $50,000 of in your savings and you think to yourself, oh, I'm going to put my $50,000 in there, I'm going to double it and then take it out. Well, sure, it might happen, but it might not happen and you might lose everything. It's very dangerous.
Probably one of the riskiest, most speculative bets I have ever talked about here on the channel. So as my word of caution here, don't do it. But that doesn't mean this has not been profitable, and this could very well just be the beginning of this stock continuing to move even higher. But really, everything you're seeing right now is just a wild guess, and it could just as well go down as it could go back up. More importantly, though, this does represent a big shift of power away from large corporate institutional investors and into the hands of retail traders and groups like WallStreet Bets, who do have the power to move markets and build demand. I honestly believe the power of retail traders has been grossly underestimated for quite some time.
And I think that the fact that these retail traders and people using things like Robinhood, the Robinhood app, and being able to invest without having the advice of investors, it takes all the rules of investing and it just throws them out the window. Like things that used to stand true 5-10 years ago don't matter anymore when you have this herd mentality of people running in, investing, and not really know what they're doing, and investing based upon just maybe a news article that they've seen, but not really researching what they're investing in. It's pretty scary, dangerous, maybe good for everyone. I have no idea.
This is a good example that a group like WallStreet Bets should not be taken lightly. But do not kid yourself into thinking that this is a foolproof way to make money. Just like some people have become overnight multimillionaires, someone else is going to be left holding the bag, losing a lot of money. I have no clue when that point might be. Maybe this goes up another 500%, or maybe it doesn't. Some people want to hold out for that magic $1,000 mark. And hey, you know what? Maybe that's possible. I would love to see this go to $1,000 because I find it so entertaining to watch and just see what happens. But whether or not that becomes a reality is just anybody's guess.
For me, it's entertainment as well, but I couldn't if I put a lot of money in this and I had to watch it, like it would just drive me crazy. I couldn't do it.
I would say the big takeaway here is just this. Investor behavior is the driving force of the market right now. Fundamentally, GameStop is not worth this price. But that doesn't mean this specific situation can't cause it to rise even higher. And guaranteed, this event is going to cause a lot more institutional money to pay very close attention to what's being said and what's going on communities like Reddit's WallStreet Bets. And most likely, they're going to be using all sorts of trading algorithms to comb through all the data that's being posted on these sites and placing their trades accordingly. This is going to create a brand new type of investor who is not swing trading, who's not buying on fundamentals, who doesn't care what the company is or how well that company is doing. They're going to trade based on hype, behavior, and trend.
That's crazy. Just, again, it's not, the market's not going to be moved based upon the numbers. It's going to be moving based upon like hype, which is, it's a new stock market.
Knowing that if they could catch the next GameStop or Palantir early enough, they're going to make a lot of money. And I think they're also going to take websites like Reddit's WallStreet Bets very seriously because that's where a lot of these trends might begin, even though it's incredibly risky and I don't endorse it. But don't fool yourself into thinking that this is a guaranteed way to make money, because I can assure you it is not.
So I hope you enjoyed this video here today and you understand the whole GME GameStop stock thing that's going on right now on the internet. It's definitely very confusing. I think that Graham does a great job of explaining it. Thank you, Graham, very much for that. I appreciate it. If you want to go out and check Graham's channel, you can go to Graham Stephan. He's all over the internet, really popular, makes a lot of money online, and a guy you should definitely be subscribing to. So check that out there. And make sure that if you like this video, that you like it. I really appreciate it. And hit the subscribe button and bell notification. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in my next video. Thanks.